Once around the park, James, and don't spare the horses.
Let's get ready to rumble!
They want to sell you some Moosehead. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult to sell beer from one province to another.
Just because an institution gets in the way doesn't mean you just blow it up.
There are a lot of Indigenous leaders who are in favor of development, who are actually involved in local development opportunities, and I don't see the other side of that ledger.
It's showtime.
And I think a lot of people agree with the sentiment right now that something has gone wrong in our judicial system.
Trump urgently reverses direction.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, really?
Why don't we just... that kind of fits all around, right? Well, welcome in and welcome back. Here we go. It's been a summer since we last chatted, but we're here and we're all ready to reboot On the Ledge, your Ontario politics podcast. I'm Dave Trafford, and this would be something of a mini Ledge feature that was broadcast on Newstalk 1010's More in the Morning, September 15th, 2025, the day we record this piece. The morning after Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie announced her intention to resign. And, of course, all that happened because she got less than passing grades in the leadership review at the AGM this past weekend. So I was on this morning with John Moore, along with former Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne and former Ontario BC leader Tim Hudak.
All right, a momentous weekend in Ontario politics because Bonnie Crombie did not get the endorsement she was hoping for. As a matter of fact, I'm reading Sabrina Nanji, who's going to be appearing on Jerry Agar's show today with her analysis. But she says that Bonnie Crombie was told by her advisors she'd get about 70%. As a matter of fact, they actually thought maybe 75%. Ooh. And as it turns out, it was 57, which was not enough. Mind you, Bonnie Crombie said after that result that she was humbled but would continue.
We still believe that a leadership race at this moment would do more harm than good for our party. It would put reforms and the changes that I know all of you are hungry for. Today's result is a message to me, and I am listening.
And what she had to listen to, according to some reports, is members of her 14-member caucus telling her, that's it, you're done, get out. And sure enough, by afternoon's end, she issued a written statement in which she said that she would retire, she would resign on the occasion of a new leader being elected. We're joined by the panelists from On the Ledge, the podcast, Dave Trafford, Tim Hudak, and Kathleen Wynne. Good morning to you all. Let me start with Kathleen Wynne, because I have to imagine you were present for this affair.
Yes, I was at the AGM the whole weekend, John, and you know, it was on the one hand engaging. There were over 2,000 people registered, and I think all of them were there at one point or another. But there was a tension in the air the whole weekend about what the leadership vote was going to be. I mean, that was undeniable. And honestly, I think it could have gone either way. I mean, there were people, you know, like Nate Erskine-Smith, Nav Baines was there. You know, there were people who were kind of agitating about Bonnie's leadership, and that had been going on for some time. And there were people who had bought into the notion that she couldn't continue, but there were a lot of people who were convinced that she could stay on. So that tension was in the air the whole weekend.
Tim Hudak, you've had to undergo leadership reviews. You were a party leader. It must have been a very fraught weekend for Bonnie Crombie.
Yeah, there's no doubt you're going to be very tense about it. But I think in Bonnie Crombie's defense, she took the Liberals back into official party status, which is going to be very valuable, John, for money for research, for getting ready for the next campaign. She rebuilt their fundraising, a credit to her, considering where the party was when she took over. Look, John, I think that time may not be everything, but it is a majority owner of your fate when it comes to politics. And Bonnie Crombie had really less than a year, or just over a year on the job, and then ran into that Doug Ford steamroller. Look, I think short of Hazel McCallion herself descending from the heavens and running in Mississauga, it was Doug Ford's second strongest area. And by not winning her seat there or improving, I think her fate was sealed.
Dave Trafford, your hot take, because it was quite the afternoon where it looked like she was going to stay on, and then all of a sudden she was gone.
It occurs to me, John, that the folks around Bonnie Crombie, particularly those who were advising her, and Sabrina quotes them or cites them in her newsletter this morning, were reading right to left as opposed to, conventionally left to right, because they just turned the number completely around. Yeah. And I begin to wonder, in the moment, yes, the 57% was a problem, and I think it was the double clutch kind of surprised a lot of people, but I think it speaks to a lot of what we saw during the campaign, frankly, and that was there was a sense of unpreparedness around the Liberal campaign, that it wasn't strictly about Bonnie Crombie. It's about the people around her. It's about the organization. It's about the foundation that is driving the party forward. So when you say who's next, well, who is actually going to drive that bus? Never mind who's going to throw their hat in the ring. And so I think that's the real issue here as far as the Liberals are concerned, because by all accounts, Bonnie Crombie should have been the star candidate that, really rose the boat for the Liberals. She should have won in Mississauga, and she was properly targeted by the Tories, and they were very successful in defeating her in Mississauga. But by all accounts, the people around her or the organization really is the failure here.
Yeah, and John, can I just jump in? There's a lot of conversation this morning about what caucus said or didn't say. I've talked to people who were in that meeting. I had numbers of conversations before she decided that she was going to step down and after. And I do not believe that caucus told her she had to go. I do not believe that caucus members said they were going to leave the caucus. I think what happened was, and my understanding is, the decision was hers. People gave her their input, and then she made the decision. There will be these rumors, but I spoke to Bonnie after she made the decision, and I really believe that in her heart she took a couple of hours and she had heard what people had to say, and she believed that it was in the best interest of the party. So I just think we need to respect that, because I believe that is actually what happened. It's more fun to speculate on the other, but the reality is that's what happened. People respected what she did. As Tim said, she lifted the party in terms of the number of members. We've got party status. She raised money that we hadn't been able to raise before for the last number of years. So she deserves a lot of credit in terms of what she did in her time as leader.
So, Dave Trafford, I'll come back to you. And the big question is, what's next for the provincial Liberals? And one presumes maybe if Nate Erskine-Smith was the man behind the curtain pulling the levers this weekend, that he has ambitions. But I don't know if he's any better choice than Bonnie Crombie.
Well, I would suggest that what the Liberals desperately need is a leader in the legislature. They need somebody sitting in the House, and so I think it has to come from the caucus. They should have learned by now, since the 2018 election, that they need the leader in the House to be present to actually take on Doug Ford. And so, there are 14 members in that caucus right now. Shamji is a capable character, and I think would make a good candidate. But you know what? I would look at somebody like Mary Margaret McMahon, and just because two things: she has run and been successful locally. She's got a good grassroots, foundational politics support, and she's taken on Doug Ford before at City Hall. So I think there are people in that caucus that could do the job, and I think that's where they need to.
Interesting stuff. Tim Hudak, any names in mind? I certainly know one person texting me this morning says that with the new geography, maybe Marco Mendicino wants to run.
Yeah, we'll see the timing of the Liberal convention versus City of Toronto race for that as well. Look, an expression I used to always use, John, that caucus, they're with you, win or tie. And even if they gave Bonnie their support, to fall below 60%, that meant, if not outright organization, whisper campaigns, that there was other available talent. And I understand Navdeep Bains, very present there. sort of auditioning as a candidate. Karina Gould is another, prominent federal Liberal, not put in cabinet this time around. I think there is a significant slate of talent that can be the next Liberal leader, and all of them are the school that Bonnie got us halfway up the hill. I'm the man or woman to take us to the top.
Folks, thank you very much. Really good to have you this morning. And of course, much, much more analysis offered in the podcast called On the Ledge. Dave Trafford is the guy who anchors that, and Tim Hudak and Kathleen Wynne are also panelists there.
And many thanks to Joe Cristiano, Nick Mairano, and John Moore for including us in the show this morning. And I do want to let you know and remind you, we will be back with the full show in the coming days. So as I said, stay tuned. Otherwise, thanks for watching on YouTube and listening on your favorite podcast app. I'm Dave Trafford, and this is On the Ledge, your Ontario Politics podcast.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.